Welcome to Flyover Conservative Podcast with David and Stacy Whited, where we break down current events and examine culture through the lens of conservative Christian values.
Flyover family, you're in this journey with us where we're trying to save America by saving Americans. One of the best ways you can save Americans is Americans do better. It's hard to do better if you don't know better. And a big part of making wise decisions, having better conversations at the water cooler, is having good information. Nobody follows the money and traces what's going on in the world. They're like, well, that's what's upstream from that. What's upstream from that? What's upstream from that? Then today's guest. We're super blessed to have him here in the studio. He's a friend of ours and friend of the show. Been on before, an investigative author, longtime researcher. He's the Associate Director of Research at the Government Accountability Institute and contributed to over 10 New York Times best-selling books. Most recently, Controligarchs. We've featured it here on the show. And if you have it, then you're probably one of the smartest people in the circles that
you've read it.
That you run in. Well, even if you just have it, you're probably a little better because it sits on your shelf and you at least read the cover, which puts you ahead of about 99% of the Americans you walk by in the mall and in your hallways wherever you work. So today we're all going to get a little bit smarter and deep dive with Mr. Seamus Bruner.
Yay!
Welcome.
Oh my gosh, it's so great to be here. It's a beautiful studio. It's great to see you guys in person.
We got to give you a little bit of Kansas City barbecue.
I know, it's ribs.
Have a good opportunity to do that, know what we're about. You know, other places say they have better barbecue. You go to North Carolina, they make a big thing. Texas makes a big thing. But I've been to those places, and I've seen some skinny people. And we don't have a lot of those in Kansas City. So apparently the proof is in the pudding. I think, we don't have beaches, we don't have mountains, but we have good barbecue here in Kansas City.
You got Crown Royal. I've never had the Crown Royal cut, but it's basically a pot roast on a bone.
It's pretty special, isn't it?
It's extremely delicious.
Yeah.
What's funny, even like in neighborhoods where we live, or you go around places, about every fifth house will have something behind it that didn't come from a store. It's nothing God ever intended. It didn't come about naturally. Some dude had his cousin help weld it, and it looks like a file cabinet, maybe on wheels with some pipes coming out. It's like some weird
sort of smoker
contraption. Most churches have something like that, behind it. But we've exhausted the possibilities of something man's been doing since they came across fire, which is, what can we do with meat, to make it?
What do you have out here? 3 grills?
I have 3 grills. We have 2 freezers. If you come to Missouri, you can basically, if you had like a thing at the fair and you want to guess people's ages, you just ask them, like, how many grills do you have in how many freezers?
That's true.
Because, by the time, if you're over 50, you should have at least 2 grills and at least an extra upright freezer or something.
Yeah, well, I feel good because I got the freezer. We put a lot of meats in there down in Tallahassee, and I've got 2 grills. So
there you
no
go.
smokers though.
That's pretty cool.
Well, you get much respect.
What's Tallahassee famous for? Do they have like food that they're famous for, or anything like that?
They are not real. Well, it's close to the coast. We've got barbecue, not as good as the barbecue I just had, but we've got the we've got the the trailers, and the best places don't have brick walls. They're just right out in a parking lot somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did get you Jack Stack today, and I apologize because our best barbecue does come from trailers
food truck.
here in Kansas City and food trucks. But it kind of gets you by, gets you a taste. When you ask people, if you've been to Oklahoma Joe's or you've been to Jack Stack or you've been to Q39, you can be like, I had the Crown Royal at Jack Stack. So it kind of give you a little street cred when you talk to somebody.
Crown Royal Jack Stack. It's the best.
It's good.
We got fish there though, so that's good. We've got the coast.
Fish,
we got snapper. We got grouper. So that's you can switch it up between the barbecue and the Gulf fish.
A little healthier. Got skinnier people in Tallahassee.
Yeah,
higher percentage.
Yeah, and then Florida State. That's where I went to college. I mean, that's the sort of the claim to fame. It's the capital. So Governor DeSantis is there.
Yeah,
and he's doing a great job.
Yeah, he really has done a great job.
We're going to dive into your work because you do some of the greatest work as far as research and the things you do. We're going to get into that. Some of your co-workers, which I think are some of the most, this rare combination of brilliant and humble cast of characters that you work with. But I want to stick with Florida State just a little bit. What was it about Florida State? You chose it over, we spent a lot of time with Tim Tebow. He's a big fan of, what's that college?
With the Gators?
Yeah.
Boo.
We're not even going to go there.
I love Tim Tebow, though.
Yeah,
Don't tell the Florida State
What's
fans
funny
I said that.
is every Florida State grad I've ever talked to, they're like, I do like Tebow. Yeah. Now that he's not playing anymore. He's a hard guy not to. If you're cheering against Tim Tebow, it's almost like you're like cheering against Santa or some other kind of like, almost mythical figure.
Well, I went to the national championship that Florida State won. The last one they won with Jameis Winston out in Pasadena. And Jameis Winston gives Tebow a run for his money for just soul and humor and just a really
humor.
He's actually a great guy. I don't know what his reputation is outside of Tallahassee, but
it's pretty good. Especially like as he's kind of bounced around as a backup, in the NFL, and his humility to play that role, having been a star. He seems to be a great team guy, but he also he's just funny. I mean, I think if it's a humor thing, he's going to crush Tebow. There's not even a competition, but they're both just great guys from everything you learn about them.
Yeah, and I have it on good authority. He didn't actually steal the crab legs; they were gifted to him. But he wasn't, I guess, mentally present enough to say that they were a gift. So he kind of just walked out with the crab legs.
Kind of like a lot of political stories. That all kind of came out on like page 6 later.
Yes,
and I think some of that stuff is done. We're headed in the NFL draft here shortly. You see. I think it's Jeremy Tunstall. He was a tackle that was going to go to, high in the draft. And they were like the day of the draft or the night of, there's a picture of him with like smoking weed with like a gas mask on or something. And like his stock fell.
That couldn't be good.
I'm quite positive, the NFL, a lot of those things happen to hurt somebody's draft stock, to make them available at number 20, and they wouldn't have been. And because you see these things, it's like politics, it's like, why'd that come out?
Right then.
The day before the draft, the day before the election, these October surprises, and they have kind of April surprises when it comes to the draft. What was your experience like at Florida State?
Oh, it was great. I love Florida State. I mean, I had applied to, I got into Tulane, I got into some New England schools, thought I wanted to go to, one of the maybe Ivies. Decided that Brown was not the place I wanted to go. First of all, it'd be $50,000 a year, and Florida State had I got a full ride there, so. That's pretty much the reason I stayed in Florida.
As a football player?
No, just high enough grades, high enough SAT scores.
For your brain.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And so went to FSU, loved every minute of it. Thought I wanted to go to Washington, D.C., but Peter Schweitzer, of all people, was in Tallahassee, Florida. I got a job working for him right out of college.
Did you know him before?
Yeah, he shared office space with my dad.
Oh, what?
So my dad would tell me, there's this guy, he's a political author, he writes books. I was a political junkie since high school. And so I met Peter. I volunteered even before I graduated FSU for the book Throw Them All Out. That was the first book I worked on of Peter's. That came out in 2011. And thought I wanted to go into politics, maybe go to law school, become a politician. And 6 months of working for Peter Schweitzer put all of those notions out of my head, and just, as you said, humble guy, great guy to work for.
Man, you're not kidding.
And I love the work, so here I am.
He's the best. I mean, we kind of get into him and the weight he's put on the political scale, but there's hardly anybody that's been talking. I don't care if you talk about Charlie Kirk, that wasn't working off of the cliff notes of what they gained from Peter.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
Alex Jones to Charlie Kirk to ourselves. I mean, anybody that's had great conversations at college campuses or at the water cooler, they're working off, standing on the shoulders of what Peter's done.
Yeah, well, and it's amazing because that book, Throw Them All Out, the first one I worked on, that exposed for the first time really the insider trading in Congress, congressional insider trading. They get all the best sweet stock information you can get. Nancy Pelosi famously, we exposed in that one. The Visa IPO, she had all this inside information, decided not to bring certain legislation to the floor, surged the stock price, and they made a killing just off of one deal. We're still talking about insider trading today. I mean, Congresswoman Luna from Florida, she's been trying to get something through. Josh Hawley had the Pelosi Act that I don't think that's gotten very far.
I don't think either side wants to vote for it.
Exactly. No. Congressman Tim Burchett, I love him from Tennessee. He said, look, this thing's not going to pass. I know that everybody on both sides, my side and their side, they want to keep trading stocks. So that's just one of dozens of stories that we broke over a decade ago that are still problems, which is frustrating for us with the name Government Accountability Institute. You're kind of like, where's the accountability?
What the heck?
But you kind of put it out there, and it's like, do people want to move on it or not? And when both sides are kind of in on it at the top, then it's kind of,
So what ended up happening with the Stock Act?
Well, they did pass one, 2015, the Stock Act. It was stop trading on congressional knowledge.
Yeah.
They're really good at naming, coming up with clever names. At the last minute, they gutted all sort of penalties. So they put in a reporting requirement that made it sooner, 45 days, within 45 days of a trade, they've got to put a notice out that they made. But that means that you and I can't go trade the same stocks if they're making the money within 45 days or more.
Have you seen the Pelosi tracker, the X account?
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's 45 days out of date. So if any gains that they make on that trade, you're just catching, you're catching it all late. So so they gutted the main provisions of the Stock Act by a voice vote. So we couldn't even figure out who was, all in favor of making us, not responsible. And they all voted to get rid of the teeth.
Wow.
Well, let's jump back into Florida State, because I got a couple trivia questions here I pulled up, because I knew you're a Tallahassee guy.
You love grilling me, David.
You're a Florida State guy, and it's fun for me to kind of dive into it. We'll kind of stick with a few things. It's an interesting college, because I guess technically it's the oldest standing institution in the state of Florida.
That's right.
Although it's had multiple name changes. And I ask you, true or false? Did you know there was it not once an all women's college?
That is true. Okay, good. That was an easy one. You're warming me up. Good. Yeah, it was Florida College for women. It was.
You graduated from a women's college.
That was a long time ago.
And
there are a lot of women there still. So,
like what year? Do you know? Like when did it?
I want to say. Well, great.
That's not part of the trivia, by the way.
I do got the answer.
1920s, 30s.
1947.
1947.
It came back.
Co-ed.
Yep.
Wow. That's interesting.
It was the Florida State College for Women from 1905 until 1947.
Wow, that's a long time.
It goes back into
42 years.
Back in the 1800s. The ROTC division in the Civil War played a big role. See how much, whether it might have covered this Initiation Day or, something like that. Apparently there's a statue there. Florida State University cadets helped won and to protect Tallahassee in a unique honor. It was basically one of only 3 ROTs. Let's see, what's the stat? The Battle of the Natural Bridge in 1865. It was one of the only Southern capitals that never got taken over.
Yeah, well, unconquered. We've got a great statue tribute to that, and that's kind of one of our catchphrases or mottos is Florida State is unconquered. So,
ooh, I like that.
Yeah, they've got a great statue right outside the stadium with there it is with that spear is flaming. So a lot of people take their grad pictures there.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, the unconquered statue is famous.
There's only 2 universities in America that have their own circus team.
It's amazing. The circus is the most. I mean, it puts Ringling Brothers to shame. Really,
Are you serious?
It's a beautiful,
it really does. Have a circus team?
Yeah, it's a big 3-top, gigantic circus with acrobats, and a lot of students are in the circus program, which is kind of funny.
It's called the Flying High Circus.
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah.
So they would actually get a degree in circus.
Yes. Which is you don't think maybe that is actually a job that is safe from AI.
Nobody wants to see a robot swinging from a trapeze. If they fall, there's no problem. They just put them back together.
They really do have a circus program.
And it's great. It's only like $10, to go to the circus. So we bring the kids, and
that's
it's a lot of
pretty
fun.
cool.
It's a thing. The community loves it.
Biggest thing that I know about the school is their sports program, specifically Florida. The Florida,
you're doing great, by the way.
Yeah, you're doing phenomenal. You're not going to get any hate from fellow grads down there. The football stadium, it feels a lot like Kansas City on game day. You guys have the chop thing going on. I think probably before Kansas City did.
Yes. The war chant is ours. The Atlanta Braves have tried to take it as well as the Chiefs.
And
the Chiefs have taken it pretty successfully, though. That is
with
an
Mahomes
inspiring thing you can hear.
They're on prime time every home game every night, so it does get a lot of visibility.
Even our grandkids, they're like, before they could even talk, they're like, oh,
yep. Oh yeah, yep. They can all do it.
I got chills.
Before talking, we're gonna play a clip here of the opening ceremony. I've never been to a game at Florida State. I would love to. What's the name of the stadium?
It's Doak Campbell Stadium. Bobby Bowden Field at Doak Campbell Stadium.
Man, I got chills thinking about being there. It's one of those things like Allen Fieldhouse for basketball almost. It's one of the older brick, kind of facilities.
I think it's like the largest brick building in Florida, or maybe the country. I'm not sure.
It's quite big. We're gonna play a clip of their opening ceremony here, and I want to get your take. I want to know the name of this character. It's your mascot, and the Appaloosa that he's riding. So let's check this out.
brings back great
cool.
memories. Yeah, that's Chief Osceola, and the horse is Renegade.
Wow. And is that supposed to be the whole thing of Unconquered?
Yeah. The Seminole Indians are big. I mean, we're never going to lose the name. It's not like the Redskins. Or anything
where they're
like
going to come in and try to take it away.
Because we're big, big collaboration between the Seminole Indian tribe.
It's funny in Kansas City they try to work on that, get rid of the Chiefs, which I'm thinking nobody has a mascot for somebody you're trying to like make fun of.
Right. No.
It's a celebration of like those are the charcharacteristics I want. You don't you have eagles, not like pigeons or something.
Right.
It's like why an eagle? Because the eagle's got these characteristics, and when you have something like the Chiefs, what's interesting is for Kansas City. The mayor of Kansas City that helped recruit Lamar Hunt and them when the Chiefs were the Texans, they're sharing with Dallas, they're in with the Cowboys, helped recruit him here. His nickname and he was mayor forever in Kansas City. It was Chief. Yeah. And so they kind of tied that in there together, and it was a major Native communities and stuff celebrated that and come in and they'll do the drum beforehand and they'll do like a protest sometimes, and it's like I don't know. 5 middle-aged white women out front of the stadium. They're like, this is a travesty, want this down.
It's not the Native Americans that are doing it.
And they'll interview people who are like, are you upset about this? And they're like, this is amazing. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, we love the Seminole Indians, so it's a good relationship we have.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not
what a great college.
Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. And you met your wife there too, right?
That's right. Yeah, we met my wife there, and I got a lot of friends and several colleagues. We recruit from FSU. It's a good school.
Oh, that's really cool.
They come out less crazy than other colleges.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
today?
It's the conservatives in FSU are, there's a lot of them.
So you're not going to be in the minority.
No,
being a conservative there.
No, and there's all kinds. I mean, there's Turning Point USA chapters, Florida, college Republicans, and every one of them is full.
And you speak there from time to time, and involved
That's cool,
there.
being able to go back to your alma mater.
Yeah,
and speak.
yeah.
Wow.
I was just in the Bellamy building, which is where I took the most of my political science classes, giving a talk to the college Republicans. So.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it's nice
sweet.
going back.
What do the young guys feel about you now? Not that you're not a young guy, but it's like you realize you're not a young guy when you go back to your college, and they're like, "Hey, what's up here?"
Yeah, you really do. They look like kids.
I know, exactly.
You're like, are these middle schoolers?
Yeah. Well, no, they're big fans of Peter Schweitzer and all the work we do. So. I don't recognize anybody, but
how about professors? And all
I
that?
have not seen a professor. I think they've moved on or
okay.
The kids, although pretty, I mean, they're like, hey, sign my book or
yeah.
What's that like to go on your college campus and have somebody walk up want to sign?
Yeah, it's surreal, really. I mean, I would not have thought. Like I said, I might have been telling you before the show. I didn't think I'd wanted to go into, I thought I wanted to go into politics. I studied poli-sci. Working with Peter Schweitzer put that notion out of my head. And so I didn't think I'd be doing anything like I'm doing now. Definitely not writing books. And so it's kind of surreal.
Let's talk about your writing books because, we're where a lot of people have written a book or an ebook or, it's like
Read a book.
It's like podcast. Somebody, was into knitting. They did one podcast about knitting. Would Colton say that there's like 5 million new podcasts?
I believe so. It's a lot of podcasts.
A lot of competition out there. Mm-hmm. We need to get better. Contributed to 10 New York Times bestsellers. Ones were 4X New York Times bestsellers. That's not like just something that got stuck somewhere. These are the kind of books that are like on the front shelf. That people go on Fox News quoting, whether the authors are on there or not. These are influential books that literally move the needle of public opinion, that shift whole belief systems. People come across the kind of books that you write and might go from here to here on an issue because the amount of data and information, that you put there. We'll get into the hows and who's, but how does that feel? Mm-hmm. To be a part of something that's so significant in our country in an era where our country is under more attack, the ideas that make America possible are sometimes deemed as evil and bad, and every single moment of our history, is deemed as evil and bad, and there's these agendas coming against it like there's never been, and you're creating these like beacons and pillars out there that are recalibrating people's minds.
It's a blessing, honestly. I mean, it's humbling to hear you say that because we don't think about that, but you're right. I mean, there's a huge impact from the books we put out. Peter Schweitzer's book, and I'm just blessed to work for Peter because he kind of taught me everything I know about book writing. We basically, the trick is the term is bake the marketing into the book. So many people put out books because you could write the best book in the world, but if nobody reads it, nobody will know. So you have to market it and you have to get it out there and launch it and have it kind of successfully take off like the Artemis 2 just did. And we've done that over a dozen times. So the marketing is you have to put impactful stories. You have to follow the money. You have to put, there's so many books out there, as you mentioned, like Google books, where they just Googled a few things and think that people really just want to hear their thoughts on a particular issue. And, even big names, I won't name them, but there's so many big names in conservative politics who've put out books and they totally flop because it's just like nobody's paying for, to hear your opinions on things.
They want the facts.
Yeah.
They're tired
facts
of fake
get
news.
shares, opinions get shrugs is a motto.
Good.
Yeah.
What
That's
you
really
have
good.
a ability to do something that a lot of people that are in conservative media that are doing. Most people are involved in a quick hot takes daily, ricocheting off of every little thing that happens. You guys sort of get a fly above that freight a little bit, and you have longer creation arcs of content, which allows you to, I think, to go much deeper than somebody can go through in a 2-hour production meeting for Fox News or something like that. So it kind of creates a whole separate niche for what you guys
that's
did.
exactly right. I mean, the thing we say about books is they just have this incredible staying power and lasting power. I mean, we're talking about control oligarchs. I mean, I just did a couple of interviews on major networks 2 weeks ago talking about control oligarchs. It came out 2 years ago, but you really need to be able to plot what's going to be important 2 years ahead. And so we kind of create events out of the book launch, and if it can really take off, then it will stay around for months and years to come. I mean, the Birthright, for example, I mean, Peter's book, The Invisible Coup, was the most recent one we did Winton's book, but The Invisible Coup, we went to the White House. I mean, the president doesn't want to meet with you when you just wrote an article, typically, or you did a really cool tweet thread.
Right, exactly.
But he heard that Peter was launching another book, and he invited us to the White House, and Peter did a great job briefing him on the birthright citizenship situation, the birth tourism. And, we were sitting there, and I won't can't say too much about it, but I'll say what Peter said publicly. Peter's talking about this birth tourism issue, and the president just leans in and he says, can we get that to the team who's arguing the Supreme Court case? And sure enough, I mean, we found, suddenly they were putting out these new briefs, amicus briefs, and a lot of people in Congress helped out with that. I'll give Senator Schmidt he deserves a shout out from Missouri.
Yep.
And he asked Peter to come testify in front of his committee and all on the birth tourism issue. That was just a couple of weeks ago. And so there were oral arguments happening this past week. And they're talking all about the stats that Peter had in his book. And so we're now like 3 or 4 months out from his book, but this is going to be an issue. And even however the Supreme Court comes down, that'll be in June on the issue of birthright citizenship. And can China send 100,000 pregnant Chinese elite mothers, birth their babies here, and then take them back to China to be raised by the CCP, and then 18 years from now be able to vote in our elections? We think the answer is obvious. That can't be allowed. We'll see what the Supreme Court does. But we're going to be talking about this for years to come. I'm sure of it.
And it was just on the news again the other day. We were watching Laura Ingraham, and she brought it up again, and she showed a husband and a wife, and they had like 20-some kids or something like that. And then there was another one that had a
baby factory that they're working
100,
for the CCP.
yeah, but they were also looking at abuse in that whole situation. But can you because we did an interview with Peter, we'll put that in the notes below. But can you just, for our audience that's listening, kind of just fill them in what's going on with China and this birthright?
Yeah, well, we've got this crazy situation where, one side of the country, half the country thinks that you should be able to just come to America, have a baby, get a birth certificate, and then suddenly that equals citizenship from people who are non-citizens. So China has completely exploited that, turned it into an industrial scale operation where they are sending military leaders, because why not? They still can retain their Chinese citizenship. Right. They have a baby, and it's like, so Schweitzer called it the Manchurian generation. Upwards of 1 million, perhaps 1.5 million since they really began this practice. And they were advertising at the CCP in their state-run newspapers how to do it, ironically arguing that you have a constitutional right to go get American citizenship, according to the silly Americans. And one of the guys, I mean, you mentioned there was the 36. There's a guy I think he had over 50 or 100 babies because they're doing surrogacy as well, which is a little more complicated because it's an American mother that a CCP elite, party member will go and pay that, a woman who's kind of down on her luck or needs is $50,000, roughly $70,000 to be a surrogate. One of these guys who just got busted, he said his goal was to have one of these babies become the president of the United States. So like a literal Manchurian candidate.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And a lot of these are going back to China.
And they go back to China.
They are being educated in China. They've got the whole communist thing. And then when it's time to vote, they can come back to the United States.
They can vote from
They can vote from, vote from China. Like Gavin Newsom, I'm sure, whoever would absolutely be shipping the ballots out there.
Yeah, so that's coming up really soon too, where these people, you gave a stat earlier on numbers, but they will be able to vote.
Yeah, they will be able to vote.
And they weren't even raised in our country.
And we'll have no idea because the United States doesn't track this kind of thing. And there's just like no category in the DHS or USCIS. It's all
of our goodness and our policies used against us. I saw
there it is, 100 children. 100 children.
There's I think in 2023 there was 350,000 children born to someone either visiting or here illegally. But they were born in the United States. That was 9% of our total births.
Yeah.
So these things are happening, and they're less diluted by the year because American citizens are being, promoted to hold off a family, go to college, get $250,000 in debt, maybe wait till you're in your 30s to start dating, and maybe 38 or 42 to have your first child, and maybe have one. It's a complete flip of the American tradition of getting, married earlier and having a longer childbearing span. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but obviously that's one, is our whole culture has shifted away to be anti-family versus pro-family. And even within the church, that's kind of become, kind of common. And so for every one of these Chinese citizens, there's less to balance it out from our own birthing production.
Yeah, it's like we're getting a double barrel shotgun. It's like two sides hitting us all at once. One is and I talk about it in Control Groups. The first chapter is really on this overpopulation, this persistent overpopulation myth that the elites in our country have been feeding to young people. Yeah. So the number of young people I talk to, people my age and younger, who say, having kids just isn't for me. It's not good for the planet or whatever it may be. There was actually a memo that I document in the book that came from Planned Parenthood and the Rockefeller Foundation. I know Colton's quick, the Jaffe memo, I think it's like page 8 or so, where they list all of here's how we're going to stop Americans and people in the West in general from having kids. And they have like economic factors and, they say promoting, the LGBT lifestyle. That's one way. Transgender kids, if you snip their, ability, they're not going to have kids. Nope. So that's all been part of the plan for a very long time. And the drugs, the castrating drugs for young people, it's crazy. But then in the economic stuff was really sort of depressing. One of them was just 2 words, chronic depression, as like, if we could just get people really depressed or hopped up on, drugs. It was this memo here was really, you look on a table. I think it's down. Maybe it's down. You'll see the table. There it is. You'd have to rotate it, but look for the zoom in on the chronic depression. It was okay. So we'll read some here. On the social side, you've got compulsory education for children. Encourage increased homosexuality, educate for family limitation, fertility control agents in the water supply.
Which, yeah.
I never found evidence that they did that, but who knows? They were thinking about it. And then encourage women to work. That's been a huge one, is just getting women out of the home and into the workplace, chasing careers, making,
If this was the play they drew up on the board, this is kind of the play you saw around on the field.
Yeah. Exactly. For sure. Exactly. That's perfectly put. Chronic depression.
There it is.
Required of women to work and provide few childcare facilities.
What year was this?
I want to say 1973.
Wow.
I don't know. It was maybe 60s or 70s. So this has just been what Rockefeller and Planned Parenthood and those types have been up to for a very long time. But then you've got the migrant problem. It took, and Colin, maybe you could just pull the birth rate chart. The birth rate chart just would shock people, where it's just right around the time this type of memo comes out, and it's just like nosedives.
Yeah.
And now it's like well below replacement
increased
level.
accessibility to abortion.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's shock and awe
Putting
from
them at every street corner.
contraceptives.
from 10 different directions. How can we basically start choking out the species?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's just been a shocking nosedive. And then, meantime, our adversaries, China, you know, the radical Islamic world, they say they're going to come in and just outbreed us.
What happens where China, you know, for so many years it was they could only have one baby, and then I think it's up to 2 now. But what happened to their population? Does anybody ever talk about that?
I mean, it's a crisis in China for sure.
They're breeding them all here in the United States.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the elites, but I talk about it in the book. It was the same people. It was the Rockefeller Foundation. It was Planned Parenthood. I'm forgetting the guy's name, but it was Bill Gates' dad was actually a director at Planned Parenthood. Back at the time when the China one-child policy came about because of, and it's in Control Guards, I think it's the Club of Rome section, but they bought into it for a period of time. They bought into the Western, the planet's going to die if we have too many kids. So that's when they put in, and I would say that in the mifepristone, like that's the abortion pill. There's a section on that in Control Guards where they were manufacturing that in China. They kind of used China as this testing ground for a lot of their theories, and China for a period of time played ball. So they've kind of, I don't even know that they've fallen out of favor. Bill Gates still has tons of deals there, and the World Economic Forum still has a close relationship. So
we'll be right back with Seamus. But a couple of months ago, we had on Linda Bammer Olson, and she was talking about this really cool technology called the Wave Watch. And we have had hundreds of testimonies, really close friends of ours, as well as ourselves. We've had amazing testimonies. And you may be thinking, how could something with frequency sound actually help somebody sleep and help their gallbladder? Well, we've had personal success. For example, myself, back in 2012, I started having gallbladder issues. They were recommending I get it out. I was not going to get my gallbladder out, and still having pain now multiple years later after taking a lot of fats out of my diet, doing everything I possibly could to save my gallbladder. Well, I started wearing the Wave Watch, and I was in some pain. And one night, the pain completely disappeared, and it has not come back. There's actually a setting on here for gallbladder. It's absolutely amazing. You've had great results with sleep.
A ton. Where at night, I'll actually start an hour or two before it's actually time for bed to help myself begin winding down. I've struggled with sleep since I was a child, and especially we travel, we're in a hotel. Normally we have a big box fan in our bedroom because we both grew up without air conditioning. So you need everything to be just right or your sleep is really off. And the Wave Watch has helped me. Listen, there's nothing magical about the watch. It's just a way to strap it on for the frequency to hit your body. They have over 166 different sounds and frequencies geared towards creating a response in your body to create a healing effect in a lot of areas, whether it's calming, stress, anxiety, to help you with sleep, gallbladder, frequencies, Lyme's disease, all these different things has a different frequency set for it. So you can go to wavewatch.com/flyover and just watch some videos. Check it out. See if it's right for you, if it's worth giving a shot. People that we interview and we're friends with, people like Dr. Brian Ardis and many others, have been using this technology to help their patients and advising people. It has helped us tremendously. Again, most everyone in our family, friends we've introduced this to have had great results. And if you're hurting, if you're in pain, you say, well, maybe this is my new normal. It doesn't have to be. If you got back pain, stiffness, joint, arthritis, a lot of different things in the body, you can help with no downsides, no side effects, no disclaimers. This doesn't have EMF, doesn't have anything else that comes from it. You don't have to download an app. There's nothing else to go with it. It just works.
That's exactly right. And when you go to the website at wavewatch.com/flyover, there is a frequency finder. You just put in the pain that you have, and it actually tells you how to set your watch to be able to help that. So go to wavewatch.com/flyover. Make sure you use the promo code flyover for 15% off.
When you look at these things happening, maybe it went to where we had this influence on China, but I almost wonder like how much their influence on us. Now we're trying to keep up. When you hear leaders speak almost in awe of Chinese surveillance and the things that they can do, you're like, it's almost like you've created a monster that you're almost envious of. Now we got to hustle to keep up with it, even though it grew out of our ability to control it. It's a little bit like Jurassic Park in a way where, the T-Rex is banging the thing and it's almost like, hey, we better work hard to keep up with this monster we created.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They are very envious. People like Bill Gates. I mean, you can, during COVID especially, you heard you heard them say things like China's just so efficient at controlling the virus, but they weren't. But they would, Klaus Schwab and so many others would say, the China zero COVID, Fauci, like the zero COVID policy, that was the right move, which is like they're welding the doors shut on people.
Right.
And,
right.
Trudeau loved that.
So they are very much envious of the raw authoritarianism that China has, but they also like the capitalism. So the state-run capitalism is China's economic model. They want all of the profits. They want to be able to privatize all of the profits into their own pockets, socialize all the losses. We all pay for anything that doesn't make them richer. And then if we try to protest or disagree, social credit score, lock them in their houses.
Yeah, it's true. Can you talk a little bit? They had up on the screen these cameras. Mm-hmm. You noticed it in Kansas City, which is, you're like, this is the Midwest. What the heck is going on? But
they went up everywhere during COVID.
Yeah, everybody's locked down, and then these cameras all went up. Can you talk about that, and what are they doing with it?
Well, it's funny because when I was walking around Kansas City, which I wouldn't recommend after certain hours, but so part of it is
we've had a Democrat mayor for all of our lifetime, and we have a man and a woman in senator here with Emmanuel Cleaver, so it's kind of So part of it's that. I mean, so I started doing research because I'm like, this is a crazy amount of surveillance going on. I mean, you've got these big like globe size ones, and then every type of camera you can imagine I was seeing. So I mean, part of it is the real crime corridors. I mean, there's just a crime situation, and so. For insurance purposes or the businesses they want it. So there's a bunch of private cameras, but then they've all sort of been fused into a grid. So you've got private businesses who have camera. I was researching Kansas City specifically. And so the city put in a bunch, I mean, after, whether, they wanted body cams on police officers after George Floyd. And so there's just this huge surveillance push during COVID. They want to lock down. And then the real problem of crime. And so you've got this kind of situation where, it's kind of what I'm working on in the next book of surveillance, where things like Palantir and these companies like that, we would like for them to use their awesome powers to, for example, like, you'll be able to find all the criminal, violent criminal migrants, right? And you'll be able to get them out. Yeah.
It's not for us, is it? I think the jury's out a little bit. I don't know. Like once they're put in and the administration changes, will these companies continue to be MAGA, or will they just be whatever gives them the billion-dollar contracts? I'm not sure, but the surveillance is growing everywhere. I mean, it's obviously not just Kansas City. It was a shocking number here, but I was just in I mean, Tallahassee has them. I mean, pretty much everywhere. Atlanta.
Didn't Ring doorbell
Ring? Something happened with Ring lately.
They now, I think, all government agencies are now they're directly uploaded the Ring data. Is that true?
Ring is Amazon. I mean, that's Jeff Bezos. So he's definitely got some surveillance. And I got an example in the book on Ring where their cameras, a homeowner, just a normal guy. Was accused of issuing a racial slur to the delivery driver. Now, it never happened, but it exposed the fact that they said because his Ring doorbell had captured him saying something that he shouldn't have been saying, they ceased he couldn't get into his Prime Video.
What?
He couldn't order from Amazon anymore. And so it kind of showed you, it's like, wait, so if you're perceived. Now, he was eventually exonerated and full Amazon access restored.
Oh, my gosh.
But if you rely on those kinds of things, you can see, I mean, the multinational corporation big enough to give you everything you need is big enough to take everything you have. So, I think social credit score is coming. It's in a way, it's already sort of here. Yeah. The wokeness and the DEI and all of that kind of stuff has retreated a bit under the Trump administration, but
didn't go away.
It's not gone. Okay, so we had on Winton Hall just the other day talking about Code Red. Can you talk about AI and what's
You've
going
really
on
also
with
done. I
that?
just want to say that you've done a great job of coaching him up.
Oh yeah.
I hope he doesn't watch this. He'll kill me.
I mean, I was like, man, you can tell he's been working with Seamus. He's so on point. He's such a great researcher.
It's so true. Well, he told me I can't say that AI is a socialism machine, even though we use that in Control Guards. He's like, don't use any of my lines. No, Winton's brilliant. And his book Code Red is a must read for AI. The job losses is thing. I was just looking. A news article came out saying radiologists are done. The biggest the biggest hospital chains in the country are saying we don't need radiologists anymore because AI is going to take them out. Now that reminded me, I was like, man, I think I talked about that. I searched our transcripts because we keep it archived. Flyover conservatives.
Yeah.
We've got a good clip on
back in 2023.
Yeah,
right?
back in 2023, I said, doctors think they're safe. Well, radiologists are going to be among the first to go.
How did you know that?
Zero Hedge has got an article on it right now as well.
Yeah. Zero Hedge is a great place to get your news. We put some articles out there sometimes, but Microsoft's put out a story saying that radiologists are the X-rays are pretty much it's just pattern recognition and nothing can recognize the patterns better. So I read that. I'm like, because I've got a doctor friend I mentioned on the show that he's like, AI can't come for doctors. And I was like, well, one by one, once the robots are, medical malpractice is, one of the largest causes of death in the country. So they don't need to be perfect. They just need to be better than doctors.
But yeah.
And already, ChatGPT, Grok, that's not AI. Mm-hmm. It's just a little gadget to interface with some large language model. But I bet if you had a way of surveying people aged 25 to 35, and maybe even up, depending on their access to those tools, if they got a bump on their leg or they got a thing or they're wondering why I'm reacting for this, they would probably be more likely and probably trust a search on either one of those large language models than they probably would talking to a doctor. Definitely if it involved, I got to sit and wait in a waiting room full of sick people and then go and talk to him and wait for him to ask chat.
Right.
The same way he passed his biology exam.
Right.
Their faith in the technology is going up in the same way that people have been reluctant to drive a car. But if you ride in, we rented a Cybertruck recently and we test drove it. Within a couple of minutes, I'm like, I hate how safe it makes me feel with 12 cameras versus 2 eyes. I don't want to even like it.
Right. I rode in a Cybertruck recently for almost an hour. The driver didn't put his hands on the wheel.
And how did you feel?
I felt totally safe.
We did too.
Like for 2 minutes, I was creeped out.
I was like, I'll never ride in a full self-driving vehicle. And it's like, wait, so I could get work done or sleep and wake up in DC or wherever.
Because it has the cameras everywhere. So even if you're by a semi and the semi goes by, it's going to kind of move a little bit as the semi moves because it's got the camera where you can't see all of that.
It's crazy. And Amazon, it's like, you want to hate it, but it's like, I can have something here same day or by tomorrow morning. I really need this thing. And
you can order something there and it shows up faster than Chinese food.
Yeah. So, so I compared it. It's like slipping into a warm bubble bath of tyranny. So
yes,
it's really hard to
how do you balance
say no to it.
How do you balance it? How do you don't go completely Amish, and be like, okay, we're going to completely remove ourselves, and how do you not get to a point where you 100% depend on it and now it's completely taken over?
Yeah, that is the question that we're all having to wrestle with right
Well, we're
now.
supposed to have the questions. You're
yeah,
supposed to have the answers.
I don't have an answer
Come
for
on,
you.
Seamus.
You're going to have to get Winton back on here.
We didn't have Seamus Brunard here to collaborate with our questions. We actually want to know. It has nothing to do with the podcast. How do we do it?
I'm looking at some places on some islands offshore. I might say go full Amish, honestly, because I don't know how you'll be able to unplug from this this system once it's everywhere all around you.
There's an expression of when it came to
get some chickens.
Exactly, we've considered it for sure.
People post online frequently like, have you ever met somebody that didn't get the vaccine that regrets it? And it's like, I've never heard that. I've never seen someone posting like, man, if I could go back, I would have got 3 more. I've never seen it. And I kind of feel that analogy kind of runs parallel a little bit with the Amish thing that comes out just as a comment. We grew up near an Amish community, and it was kind of like, oh, that's kind of quaint, or and maybe you kind of feel bad in a little bit. Then you kind of look along, and you're like, oh man, you're got all these problems, nieces and nephews, cousins, people look in the regular society, can't find a job, can't do this, struggling with and like.
Pornography issues, all these different things.
Have the pornography addiction, they have the depression, the suicide rate. You see the kid that recently grew up in an Amish community, went on his kind of gallop and ended up in L.A. And he went on.
I did not see this.
He's been on different podcasts.
He's probably 19 or 20. I don't remember his name, but he ended up. He's met somebody and they're like, you're fascinating. Like, you're not a character.
He was asking about the homeless because he's like, well, they just build a house.
He's so like, why would they want to just live outside? You can one of those build a house. There's a picture of him.
This is legit. He's legit.
And he's on Theo Vaughn and a lot of, and it's almost like it's almost like interviewing somebody from history.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you could bring somebody from 1850 to here, they would be baffled at some of the things that we struggle with. Like explain a treadmill or why you struggle with your weight or something.
Right.
It's like, why don't you just walk? Right? Right. And so the contrast was so strong. And I'm bringing this analogy, like, do you ever have anybody regret the vaccine? I've never heard that. You look at the distinct, the fruit was small. This started in the 1860s. I think they were just like, okay, this is kind of like no more technology. This is kind of enough, and they kind of move on. The fruit, as that continues to grow from where any major city is, and him being in LA just kind of really made it stark. You got Skid Row, you got like 50 or 60 square blocks of just homelessness and addiction and needles, and this. And in his mind, he's like, well, nobody has a family, nobody has parents, nobody has a connection, nobody has community. They and you look at like most parents struggle with like how much screen time do our kids get? And you're like, what's even on a screen that they need?
Right.
They need more stick time,
right,
and tree time. I almost wonder if in the future, if that wouldn't almost be considered the luxury and looked at anyone else with things with pity.
Yeah. Well, as you were saying that, I was just thinking to myself, like, I've never regretted going hours and hours and hours without a phone.
Yeah.
And you feel like you can't live without your phone.
You're right.
I mean, you got all kinds of, work needs and
or even if you're like, I drive off and I go to the grocery store, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have my phone. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
What
right.
do I do?
And then
somebody has to get a hold of me.
We're not brain surgeons or nobody's going to need us for something.
Exactly.
We don't deliver babies.
So I've never regretted it, and we don't let our kids have any screen time. So no iPads or anything like that, and I'm sure they'll probably come out ahead.
I think they will.
I was just thinking about how I'm going to make sure that my kids practice their handwriting.
Yeah.
Because I think a luxury soon, if not already, is just handwritten. I mean, it always means a lot when you get a handwritten card.
You're
Yeah.
right.
You can
and
read
even
cursive.
learning cursive and being able to read cursive.
Yes.
It's
a lot
like,
of kids
she wrote this in secret Hebrew code.
What is this?
Right.
What is this like in the future? Like how when kids are little, you spell in front of them. Our granddaughter, she's turned 6. She can't spell in front of her anymore. We're like, hey, what this?
Oh, you want to have P-I-Z-Z
Or whatever.
You said pizza.
I'm like, man, okay, we need a new thing. But the future is like, if you want to keep things secret from curkids, you just write it in cursive and hand it to them.
Yeah.
Leave it laying around. They're like, I don't know. They're writing in Hebrew again. What is this?
I hope you're enjoying this as much as we are. We'll be jumping right back in with Seamus.
What if I were to tell you that every single time you paid a certain bill, that a little bit of that went to things that you spend a lot of time against?
That would be terrible.
That a little bit went towards restricting your speech. A little bit went towards increasing the number of abortions in America. A little bit, went towards some of these things that you're really against. That's sad. What if there was an alternative that actually was for the things that you're for that stand? And it's a bill that probably every single person watches this pays every month. That's your phone bill. A company we have fallen in love with, literally fallen in love with from their CEO on down, is Patriot Mobile. Because you get the exact same service you would with any other cell phone provider, except for two things. One, when you call them, their customer service is based right here in America, so you can understand them.
You understand them.
And
That's
they're
a big deal.
employing real Americans, not AI phone answering. And number two, they support causes that we support as Flyover conservatives. They actually, we're not buying bullets and sending them to the enemy. They're actually on our team for the things that we represent.
So things like pro-life, things like pro-military, free speech, as well as pro-guns, all of that. You do that when you go to patriotmobile.com/flyover and you are paying your phone bill. You are supporting these things as well.
You can't get more America than that. And they are exactly that. Each and every day, we love the service. We love the support. Anytime you call in, and I know, trust me, I know it's kind of a hassle. You're like, well, I don't want to change companies. That's kind of a problem. They have everything worked out for you. And the people on the phone to walk you through that process, you don't have to call and bother your kids or grandkids or any kind of a neighbor to help you. They walk you through the whole process, make it very easy. And then every month when you pay your bill, you know you're not doing something bad with the money that we are called to steward. So give them a call today, 972-728-7468, 972-728-7468, patriotmobile.com/flyover. These changes taking place, you run a lot of your filter through personal experience and valuing history. You kind of, I've seen some of your tweets. You value actually being on location. I want to bring up one specific because I think we're talking about history and us kind of moving away from, certain trends, about you being in Switzerland. Because I've seen this hotel that you went to on like it's on lists. Sometimes they'll show up with like the 10 coolest places you can ever visit, on reels and things like that.
And you actually saw it. You visited it.
Yeah.
It's called it was
Hotel Belvedere?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It was in James Bond Goldfinger.
I didn't know that at the time.
Which it was the dirt road at the time.
Yeah.
You're going to find the whole story hilarious.
But there's a glacier, that goes through this area, and you went on and visited it, and you took this trip. As you explore the world, you seem like kind of a stop and read the plaques kind of guy. Not just, that's neat. Where's the snack bar? You're kind of like taking it in and then working on content that affects Americans. But you seem to be also stopping and kind of coming up every once in a while for air and be like, hey, where did we come from? Where am I at? Where am I going? And then kind of get back to work. Talk about maybe even this trip a little bit and just the process of history, taking things in, and how that impacts the things you're doing in the moment that actually are affecting history.
Yeah, well, wow, this is I didn't expect this coming, and you're going to find it really funny how that trip came about. So I was still living at home. I was 13 when I went without my family.
13?
13. It was actually supposed to be a punishment, but my parents didn't do enough research, and so they sent me on a missions trip to Egypt. And so the beginning of the Swiss trip began in Egypt. So I spent 2 months about 2 months in an orphanage in Egypt, 6 hours south of Cairo, and we were painting an orphanage. It was actually one of the most life-changing experiences of my life. They're like, we got to get him out of the house for the summer. I don't care where he goes.
Send him to an all-Muslim nation. And talk about Jesus on the corners. We'll see what happens. That'll toughen him up.
It was scary. There was a bombing in the Cairo airport the day. My parents didn't know for hours whether or not we had gotten out of Egypt.
Your parents didn't like you.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if he comes home. So Switzerland was actually just the end of that trip, but the Egypt part of it was amazing. Really, everybody came back with an appreciation for. Because you have these starving orphans who have nothing, and they're playing with soccer balls that are deflated and crumpled up, duct taped things for soccer balls. And they were happier than most people, most kids you see in America. No Xbox, no video games, and it was just really, really something to see. And then we did go to Switzerland and Lake Lucerne, and where Smoke on the Water is apparently the song written about, and that hotel, Belvedere. And that was just kind of like, okay, you guys have roughed it through this. We had armed guards with us everywhere. We had in Egypt, we had the calls to prayer, because it was the only Christian orphanage in the entire town. It was called Asut. And so you had 6 different mosques blaring calls to prayer 6 or 8 times a day or whatever.
Do you think your kids will do these similar trips to New York City in the future?
Yeah, right. You don't have to go far to see that anymore. Which is, shocking.
Yeah.
Well, New York, Egypt wasn't always that way.
Right.
They tried to build one in Florida. Florida said no, but in Texas, they're making headway in Texas. So
You're
kind
right.
of big enough they can kind of hide into the legislation and sort of use the laws against it. What was your biggest takeaway from being in primarily Islamic nation at that age? What perspective did that give you, though, coming back to the United States?
Well, it was the orphanage had over 600 orphans. I think it was the largest orphanage in Egypt,
and it was Christian.
And it was Christian, which was really amazing.
Yeah.
So it just shows they're not really doing that. Coming into a Christian place and setting up the orphanages for Muslim. So Christianity has really been a service and blessing to the whole world.
Right.
It's really the only religion who goes and does that kind of thing, goes to a place where everybody hates you and still tries to save the children.
Probably really influenced you even for your life, of even the direction of your life and understanding where you are today and what you do. Pretty remarkable. But the things that we do that lead up to that, God uses every part of it.
Yeah. And I have to, my parents, they gave me the list of places and they let me choose initially. And so I was like, well, the surf camp for the amputees in Australia was my first pick, and they're like, no, that sounds too much fun. And the soup kitchen in Dublin, and they're like, we're gonna remove all the first world countries off the list.
Yep.
So no Australia, no Dublin, and then so it was Malawi, Burkina Faso, and I'm like, none of these sound very nice. So I chose Egypt for the pyramids mostly, but it ended up being it was a very special trip.
That is really cool.
You never know in life when something is kind of a magic moment, on any kind of event. Everybody's be thankful for every day. We calculated the day, like 20,000 days old, something like that. We're talking about people we've known that have, passed and different things. I'm like, it's not that someone could die, because everybody is going to die. Like everybody Jesus prayed for got healed, and they're all dead. It's kind of a morbid, thought, but we all sort of live with this idea of, hey, we're going to be around forever. But each day is a massive gift, that we're all given. For me, what's amazing is you make it this many days. I mean, every time you're driving on a highway, somebody's on the other side going the other way, or you could slip on a banana, or, it's like every day it's a magical thing that we live, but you never know what day, you're going to have like that, that I'm sure is a filter, and it's an app that's running in the back of your head a little bit of like, as you're processing the directions of where we're headed. What do you see right now as we kind of wrap this up? My last question for you. Anyway, I could sit here with you till like next Tuesday. So it's like, it barely even scratched the surface. What would you say is that we did a state of the oligarchs the other day with you, virtually. In a minute or two, what's your level of sort of hope, optimism, despair, whatever, for where America is? You see Trump pushing back on so many things. You see some of the Republicans not necessarily even on as much on board. You see him pushing for things that I would say I'd push against. I mean, we saw Melania Trump walking down the walkway with a robot the other day. I'm like, I don't know if that's the best thing for America. But where would you place your assessment based on your life experience, based on your past experience, kind of your future hopes and dreams as a father, and your current circumstances? Where would you place America right now?
Well, man, that's a brilliant question, as all of yours are. I was afraid you were going to ask me another seconds question when we talked about 20,000 days. But well, speaking of, the one thing that unites all of us is that we are going to die.
Yep.
And what unites us in this audience is that we know that the battle's already won, and we're going to live with Jesus forever.
Yes.
So, but the thing that is really interesting about that thing that unites us, we're all going to die, is these atheists in power fear that tremendously. These tech guys, the control oligarchs. And so that, I think, is what's driving almost everything that they're doing. I mean, right now, like the AI, they say, oh, it's the productivity or whatever. I think that they believe that they'll be able to extend their lives through, AI doctors or life extension, or, I mean, worse, transhumanism, and uploading their brains to the cloud. And so it is a really challenging time to be raising children, knowing that they're going into, these guys basically, I mean, nobody's getting to vote on. I mean, I think most people look at AI and it's like, wait, you're talking about losing half the jobs here, and nobody's going to be able to work. And when can we vote no? I vote no.
Right.
But we're not getting a chance to do that. So it's just kind of full speed ahead. And it's like, well, we have to beat China or whatever. We've got this arms race. So it's a confusing time to live, to be alive and to be raising kids. But I think that this tension between, I think it's a huge opportunity for converting people to Christianity, and for saying that actually you don't have to fear death.
Yep.
And I still hold out hope that people like Elon Musk, I mean, he says he's spiritually Christian or culturally Christian, not spiritually Christian. But I think they're all searching for answers too. I mean, the Peter Thiel, he's a little odd. He claims he is Christian. He's got a lot of talking about the Antichrist right now.
The beast and so forth. Yeah.
He says the Antichrist is anybody opposed to AI.
Like, oh, man.
Like, it seems like anybody opposed to what you're up to.
Yep.
So I think, that's just really a fascinating time to be alive. I mean, I'm sort of a technophile anyway, so it's like, it's odd for me because it's like I love trying out all the new technologies.
Yeah, sure.
But so using them for good purposes. I mean, like, we're using a lot of AI tools for making it easier to follow the money and expose the corruption faster. So I'm excited for the time that we're alive right now.
It is. It's a great time to be alive. And like you said, everybody has an opportunity. So praying for these people, praying for Elon Musk, praying for Peter Thiel, people in positions of influence and leadership, because it's impossible to pray and for something not to happen. So through our prayers, God is moving. So putting people in positions to be able to share the gospel, to plant seeds so God can do the rest. So we were all created by God, and he wants all of us to meet him as our personal Lord and Savior. So definitely a call for us to pray. Okay, so for people that are like, how do I find out more about the book? How do I follow Seamus? Tell them how to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, so we've got a website. I mean, my Twitter is Seamus Bruner, SeamusBruner, SeamusBruner.com. You can go to controloligarchsbook.com. That's where the book is. I'm working on another one. It's going to be kind of like the right-wing control oligarchs. So
that's interesting.
it will be, I think it will be really interesting. It's not going to be the same kind of like, it's all bad, because I think Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and all these guys have done a lot of good things too. But, we're moving closer to this control type grid situation, and people need to look out. So that'll be out probably 6 months, maybe a year.
That's exciting.
Yep. And so those are the websites. accountabilityinstitute.org is our organization website. And then, of course, follow Peter Schweitzer on Twitter, and peterschweitzer.com, I think, is his website.
If not, it should be.
Yeah.
Well, put your.
Well, it was Winton. By the way, it was Winton who said to me when I was just out of college, buyyourname.com. He's like, you don't think you're going to need it?
Yeah.
You're going to need it. So I bought it then and didn't even launch the website till a couple of years ago.
Smart. It's very, very
Winton
good.
is very smart. Buy Code Red too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so those
exactly.
we'll have the links to all those below.
Yeah.
Your team of sort of musketeers that you guys have put together is phenomenal. I'd like to be just an invisible ant in the break room, there in Tallahassee when you guys talk or hang out, because you guys do the work and you value truth and you quadruple fact check your own selves as things come out. So I always trust everything that's on one of your Twitter feeds, anything that comes out in your books. You guys have the highest ethical standard there is in America for truth. And people who value truth, this is the source where you need to be looking at it when it comes to news and information. Control Oligarchs. And we'll have your entire link tree in the notes below, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or Rumble or Google or Apple or wherever. The notes section will have all the links to get a hold of Seamus and follow his work. His ideas need to be sticky in your life so that you have better conversations at the water cooler. Seamus, thank you so much for eating some barbecue with us and spending time in Kansas City.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, Flyover family, for joining us tonight.
We have so much fun bringing these conversations and learn so much
fun.
Personally. I hope you do as well. I hope you'll share this with others. Again, every reference point we had in the show is in the links down below. Check them out. Share those things. Be a sprinkler of good ideas on those around you. And we'll give a big shout out to our sponsors for today's show, starting with Patriot Mobile. When we found out we could take a percentage of our phone bill that we were paying anyway, we could actually save money, but not be donating to causes that we do shows trying to stop. It was a no-brainer for us. And then you got the best customer service in the world with people that actually speak the same language as you, the real humans, not AI, right here in America, either in Texas or California. Pick your accent, and they're there to help you whenever you want. You go to patriotmobile.com/flyover, patriotmobile.com/flyover, and meet some of the best people on the planet.
The other sponsor is WaveWatch. When you go to wavewatch.com/flyover, make sure you use the promo code flyover. Try it. You guys are going to be blown away at how much this can actually help you and actually change your quality of life.
If it sounds kind of crazy to you, just go check it out. Go to wavewatch.com/flyover. Go to their website, watch a couple of videos, look at some of the science, and you're like, maybe there's something to that. And if you've watched this show, you've probably been around long enough to know, like, well, if this was the best thing for me, maybe my doctor would have prescribed it for me a couple of years ago. Probably not. You probably take your health in your own hands. This is a great way to do it. Go there, do your own research. Wavewatch.com/flyover. Get a discount. Use promo code flyover. You will be super glad you did. And they got a guarantee 100% on any product they have as well. So test them out.
That's exactly right. We bless you. We bless you to realize you were born for such a time as this. We bless you to realize your future is brighter than your past. And we bless you to wake up, speak up, and show up.
See you back here again next time, guys. Peace out.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Flyover Conservatives podcast with David and Stacy Whited. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave us a comment below. Lastly, if you enjoyed today's podcast, share with those who came to mind. Be blessed and make it a great day.